everyone, and welcome to this week's Sunday video. My name is Bryony and I am so excited to have you all here watching us this morning. We are continuing on with our series in Joseph this week, so sit back, relax, and enjoy learning more about Joseph.
Hi everyone, I'm Esther and I'm going to be doing our story today, which continues on in the story of Joseph. So before we get into today's part of the story, I'm going to quickly give a recap of what's happened so far. So Joseph has been sold by his brothers and now he's a slave in Egypt working in Potiphar's house, who's an official of the Pharaoh. And Joseph, because God's with him, he's doing super well, he's succeeding in all he does, so Potiphar really likes him and puts him in charge of a bunch of stuff. But the problem is Potiphar's wife tries to have an affair with Joseph. But because Joseph knows this is wrong, he says no to her and resists her. But this makes her super mad. So one day she lies to Potiphar and says that Joseph tried to attack her. And of course Potiphar got super mad at this, so he threw Joseph into prison unfairly. And now he's in prison for a while, but because God's still with him, he's still doing super well, so he actually gets put in charge of a bunch of prisoners and things like that too. Now I'm going to read a bit out of the Bible to see what happens next. Sometime later, Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and chief baker offended their royal master. Pharaoh became angry with these two officials, and he put them in prison where Joseph was, in the palace of the captain of the guard. They remained in prison for quite some time, and the captain of the guard assigned them to Joseph, who looked after them. While they were in prison, Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker each had a dream one night, and each dream had its own meaning. When Joseph saw them the next morning, he noticed they both looked upset. "Why do you look so worried today?" he asked them. And they replied, "We both had dreams last night, but no one can tell us what they mean." "Interpreting dreams is God's business," Joseph replied. "Go ahead and tell me your dreams." So first the cupbearer tells Joseph his dream, and Joseph interprets it and actually says that the cupbearer is going to go back to Pharaoh's palace and do really well. And then he asks the cupbearer please to mention him to the Pharaoh so that Joseph can come out of prison too. So a few days later, the Pharaoh has a party and invites the cupbearer and the baker to the palace, as Joseph said. But the cupbearer completely forgets all about Joseph. Anyway, so 2 years later, the Pharaoh wakes up after having 2 dreams in the night, which really disturb him and he doesn't understand the meaning of. So he asks all the wise men and magicians and everyone he can think of to try and interpret those dreams, but no one can do that. So the cupbearer eventually remembers Joseph and tells the Pharaoh about him, that there was a guy in the prison who actually interpreted a dream the cupbearer had. So Pharaoh calls Joseph out of the prison and asks Joseph to interpret these 2 dreams. And Joseph said, "Actually, I can't do this myself, but God can help me to interpret your dream. So tell me what your dream was." So the Pharaoh tells Joseph his dreams, and Joseph interprets them and says that actually there's going to be 7 years of amazing prosperity in the land, followed by 7 years of great famine. So he says to the Pharaoh, "I really advise that you should get someone in charge of making sure that food is stored up during the 7 years of prosperity, so that in the 7 years of famine there can be enough food to feed everyone." I'm going to read a bit about what happens next. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has revealed the meaning of the dreams to you, clearly no one else is as intelligent or wise as you are. You will be in charge of my court, and all my people will take orders from you. Only I, sitting on my throne, will have a rank higher than yours." Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I hereby put you in charge of the entire land of Egypt." As God revealed to Joseph in the dream, there was 7 years of amazing prosperity in the land, which was followed by 7 years of famine. But in these 7 years of prosperity, because Joseph was in charge, he was able to store up enough food to last through the 7 years of famine. And I'm going to read a bit more about what happens next. At last, the 7 years of bumper crops throughout the land of Egypt came to an end. Then the 7 years of famine began, just as Joseph had predicted. The famine also struck all the surrounding countries, but throughout Egypt there was plenty of food. Eventually, however, the famine spread throughout the land of Egypt as well. And when the people cried out to Pharaoh for food, he told them, "Go to Joseph and do whatever he tells you." So with severe famine everywhere, Joseph opened up the storehouses and distributed grain to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe throughout the land of Egypt. And people from all around came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph, because the famine was severe throughout the world. I don't know if you remember at the very beginning of the Joseph story, where God actually promised Joseph through 2 dreams that one day he'd be this amazing leader. And I don't know about you, but if I were Joseph, honestly, I'd find those promises a little bit hard to believe, considering Joseph was sold as a slave, and then things started to go well, but all of a sudden he was thrown into prison for 2 years. But I think looking back, we can see how through all of those scenarios, God was always with Joseph and actually had this amazing plan that he was working out, but according to his own timing, even if it meant that Joseph had to be a bit patient. So I think it's a great reminder for us that we can trust God no matter our circumstance, that God actually has a far better plan than anything we could imagine. So that's the story for today, guys. But next week, believe it or not, it continues to get exciting. So hopefully see you then. Bye, guys.
Hi guys, hope you're all having a good week and that you're having a good week at school. So today we're going to be looking at Genesis chapter 50 verse 20. And it says, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." So the first thing that I take from this passage is that Joseph forgave his brothers for the terrible things that they've done to him. and forgiving is such a big thing because it lets go of all the anger or rage you have at someone, and it is not a good thing to keep with you, anger. So forgiving is really a good thing, and if you struggle with forgiving, you should really look into praying for that. And so Joseph forgave his brothers for all the terrible things that they did to him, and which is a good thing to like forgive, because he let goes of the anger that and resentment that he has towards his brothers, and creates a positive environment. So, and the second thing that I take from this passage is that God had a plan for Joseph, and it saved many lives, and it was very successful. So no matter what happens in life, and if it's part of God's plan, then it will happen, and it will be successful the same way it was for Joseph. So yeah, and the third and final thing that I take from this passage is that Joseph is more focused on the good things that God has done for him, rather on the terrible things that his brothers have done to him, and all the challenges that he had to face to be successful and save many lives through God. And which is a good thing, to focus on the blessings that God has put out for you, rather on the terrible things that have happened to you, and which is something that we need to apply to our week. And thanks for watching.
Well, unfortunately, that's the end of this week's video. It was so great having you all watching along with us. And don't forget that same time, same place next week, we'll be here again. So see you then. Bye!